Well, it's time for your True Real Estate 911 midweek update with your local real estate pros. We have Steve Treu pinch hitting for Lisa Treu this week. And Steve, you have the numbers, and we've got a lot of information we're going to tackle in Palm Beach County real estate. And here's kind of the first thing I'm saying. What we're seeing on the local side is better than a lot of what we're seeing nationally. We're seeing that the price performance is better, that the number of closings actually higher year over year. We had actually seen a bit of a drop off nationally. So I think the first thing is that we know the old saying that real estate is local, but that seems especially true right now in this maturing real estate recovery.
Yeah, it's good news to see that closed sales have risen year over year over 21%, and prices are continuing to push upward. However, there are some challenges on the horizon, I think, Brian, that we're going to be seeing as we go into the fall, and that's that inventory has gone dramatically up from a year ago, over 35%. So those are big numbers to contend with where the supply is.
Yeah, you raise an interesting point there, and I want to remind you that as we get going today, you can reach out to the Treu Group. So easy to do. Get started at TreuRealEstate911.com. That's TreuRealEstate911.com. Or reach out to the Treu Group 7 days a week by calling 561-972-8326, 561-972-8326. You brought up a couple interesting numbers. Closed sales, 21.5% increase year over year. That's excellent. However, with the 35% increase in inventory, one of those numbers is not like the other. So, yeah, we are seeing the inventory rise, and you think that perhaps that could end up representing maybe some additional opportunity on the buy side here before the summer's up.
Yeah, I think as the market starts to shift with these numbers, the supply in the market is now at 5.8 months, where previously we were down in the fours, which was a pretty strong seller's market. So when we get to that 6-month point, it kind of is a crossing the fence over to the buyer's advantage. So we're right on the line of making that transition. And with the increase of inventory that we're seeing here, I think that's going to happen as we go into the fall, which is going to impact some of the the values that we're seeing with these increases.
What is primarily driving the inventory increase? Are these just individuals that are going, oh, well, this might be a good time to put my home on the market? Or are we seeing that banks that maybe has some of that shadow inventory distress, they coming out with it? Or
yeah, I think, Brian, that the numbers for the short sales and foreclosures are, fairly low compared to what we'd seen in, previous times. So a lot of that's still, clearing out, but there's not much left in the system as what we were normally used to in these numbers. So the impact there, I think, is pretty minimal. Inventory does increase during the summertime with folks wanting to make transitions with the family from, different schools and moving into different areas. So there might be a little bit of reason there. I also feel personally that it's probably economic driven. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty with the U.S. economy, and some people may feel like they're a little overextended with their homes, with where things are positioned with the job market and whatnot. Now's the time to take advantage of making a move and taking some of that equity and reallocating it.
a couple of the other numbers that you'd pointed out here that are interesting, the average sales price, which is the highest I think I can ever recall having seen it since we've been doing the show.
Yeah, I mean, $578,000 as the average sales price, pretty strong numbers. I mean, that's gone up over 24% since last year. So that's obviously driven with the higher price points being sold in the market, which correlates with, I mean, as we look at the $1 million plus sales over the last year, pretty strong numbers there. And the height of the activity as far as listings and closings are in that 300 to 600 mark. So, you know, that's really what's driving those higher numbers at this juncture.
Yeah, it's interesting that you point out the million plus listings. The single biggest increase in number of closings June to June, year over year, were in the million plus category. That's 69. There's a 69% increase in the number of million plus dollar closings in Palm Beach County. And so you see that average sales price that is pulled higher because of it. And that's one thing, Steve, that I see that's encouraging. when I've been taking a look at some of the national numbers coming out of June, the high end, the luxury end, has been performing pretty well around the country. What we haven't seen doing so well is everything else. And so, kind of the million plus listings were papering over the other properties. But everything in Palm Beach County was either flat, literally flat, under 100,000, or if you take a look at properties in that 200 to 250 range, you see a 44% increase. If you take a look at 400 to 600, 36% increase, all the way to that 69% increase with a million. So in other words, thankfully, it doesn't look like it's a tale of high-end luxury and then everything else. It looks like still, generally speaking, real estate at multiple price levels in the Palm Beaches, at least most recently, has still been performing pretty well.
Yeah, it has been, Brian, and it's, as you look at the number, it graphs pretty well that these 3 to 600 range is kind of the top of the bell curve generally, and but you're still having good activity on both the lower and the higher end, like you mentioned. So it does help across the board with the numbers.
Now, Lisa has been foreshadowing the backing out by the big investment firms that have been active in Palm Beach County real estate. And so with the increase in inventory that we're seeing come into the market, as you had mentioned, you would not be surprised to see that increased inventory showing up in subsequent months and in some numbers that might demonstrate that maybe properties are staying on market a little bit longer than they had been. And we'll have to see what the impact on price may be. At the same time, something that Lisa had pointed out is this could be a good opportunity if you'd been looking to buy, especially if you had been financing and you were finding a hard opportunity because you're in competitive situations.
Most definitely. I think this is going to start opening up the market to be a little more even playing field for buyers as well as sellers. Sellers are going to have to pay attention to what they're doing when they're hiring people to market their home and get it sold. There's so much that goes into getting the most for your home in the process, and it's not just putting it in the MLS and hoping and praying. It's actually hiring somebody who actually can market, get it exposed, and get you the most for the money available out in the marketplace. And that's what we're able to do in the process here. And knowing the numbers, what's going on around you, and being able to connect that information to the public is important so that you know where you stand when you're out there with your competition.
It's always interesting when you take a look at the information that you share. For example, we'd mentioned that with $1 million plus properties, there's a 69% increase in closings year over year. There's a 34% increase in new listings there. A lot of the listings that have been coming onto market have been in that $600 to $1 million range, and then also in the $100 to $150,000 range. So I think the story that it really comes down to what type of property you have, where you're located, even within Palm Beach County. That can go a long way towards dictating what the outcome for you might be right now.
Oh, without question. As we look at, as you were talking about earlier, the national numbers are very different than the local. And even when you get to Palm Beach County, local areas within our county, as we would view them as local, become, now focused on cities and even specific neighborhoods that are doing better than others based upon certain circumstances around them.
And I think the other thing that's important too is at some point we do have to expect a return to normalcy. And that's actually a good thing. We had obviously outrageous market dynamics playing out during the housing boom that were unsustainable. And then at the same time, we did what we so often do once we have gone through an extraordinary situation. We overcorrected on the downside. So, we ended up seeing 2+ years of a fairly substantial local recovery, getting back to where real estate has typically been, which you point out 6 months worth of inventory is normal. We're at 5.8, so it's still technically a little bit skewed towards sellers. And getting back to a 4% or so year-over-year rate of appreciation, well, that would be normal. So at some point, getting back to those numbers is a good thing, and that's sustainable historically. We wouldn't want an out-of-control recovery to take place again because that might end up not ending well.
Oh, yeah, without question, Brian. That is definitely I think the long-term goal for this market is to gain some stability and an even playing field, because that's really what helps the whole stabilization of the real estate market around us. It's interesting, as we've over the past month been dealing with transactions on different deals from $1 million plus all the way down to, $200,000 properties. There's so many more people coming into our listings and saying, I really love it, I'd like to buy it, but I got a house I got to sell, and I've been on the market for 8 months and it's not sold. What do I do? And so that's becoming more and more of a challenge, and it's kind of indicative of some of the numbers we're seeing as that inventory is building. These people are wanting to buy, but they can't and so they're contributing to that inventory. It's a matter of, getting positioned properly so that you can make your next move. The additional inventory now is becoming those folks' competition in order to get out of their situation. So you really have to be tuned into your local numbers. And, if you want more information, please give us a call, because we can definitely discuss your specifics and how that affects you.
Yeah, because I know, for example, in your situation, 8 months under that type of scenario, generally speaking, that's not going to be satisfactory, and that probably means that the property wasn't positioned right to begin with, correct?
Exactly. And, it's kind of, sad to have those conversations. I was at an open house on Sunday, and, folks were talking to me about their property, and they're ready to write a deal, but their hands are tied.
Yeah.
So, it's just so sad that they can't make the move, because in the process, they've probably lost a lot of money over those 8 months with trying to find their spot without really good knowledge of where it should be.
And a lot of that can be taken care of just by having the correct information.
Exactly.
And so,
right.
Your average time on market is in what neighborhood right now?
Oh, we're under 50 days. It's very doable. It's just a matter of how it's done.
Right. So getting the best information and getting in touch with the Treu Group to start the process can make all the difference between being in that position to be able to move up, buy, and take advantage of the local real estate market, or being in the situation you just described, which is no end in sight to selling your property and maybe seeing the opportunity that you'd wanted pass you by. The other thing that you talked about, this is summer, and we do tend to see the family type buyer. Before long, we're going to be outside of summer again. I mean, at this point, I would imagine most people that want to relocate for school purposes have done so, given that we're only a few weeks off from school being back in session.
Yeah, for the most part, a lot of those contracts are done, or at least they're written and they're waiting to close. But there's still folks they have kids in a school district that they don't live in, and they're trying to get into that area so they don't have to deal with transportation issues on a day-to-day basis, and it just makes it easier on their lifestyle. So, there's still some of that movement that'll be going on. But like you said, we're fast approaching fall, and as we come into fall, we have some of the snowbird buyers that will start trickling in early in October. And
what made me think about that is you take a look at the difference between single-family homes, which ended up seeing a 21.5% increase in closings year over year, and you take a look at townhomes and condos, which were actually down about 8% year over year, and it kind of ends up making sense in that context that it's more about families buying and moving at that point. You end up, rather than waiting until you already have the snowbirds that are out here hunting, I know that your team markets to them and is ready for them to make that decision. So if you've been sitting in a condo or townhome and you'd wanted to sell, but the marketplace wasn't quite right, this could be coming into that opportunity now for you to be in a better position to sell than maybe you were a few months ago.
Without question, it's all timing, and just being again in tune with the numbers that are going on around you. It's easy information to convey to our clients so that they can make decisions that work best for them in their situations.
So the story is interesting. There's a lot going on here. We're seeing home price appreciation that's above the national average, about 6% year over year. We see closings that are much better than what we had seen with the national averages. And then we have a lot of interesting individual stories underneath those numbers in local real estate. The bottom line is get the solution that you need by getting the right advice on the front end and get in touch with the Treu Group. Get started at TreuRealEstate911.com. That's TreuRealEstate911.com. Reach out to the Treu Group 7 days a week. at 561-972-8326, 561-972-8326.